Welcome to another episode of the Heron Outlet. He is Austin Robillard. She is Alex Finley. I am Ian Heston. Guys, there's a lot of smiles on faces. Finally, it took a while. It definitely took a while. But Inter Miami, as they say for the Miami Marlins, the old Florida Marlins, are in the win column. They score a 3-2 win over the New England Revolution. Ironically, the last win that Inter Miami had was also against the New England Revolution to end last year, that win to end the year. Inter Miami's first win of the year, and went down a goal, found their way back into the game, actually got up 2-1 before being level, and then Leandro Campana getting the win. The first ever hat trick in Inter Miami history, which I think we need to discuss at the start. But a really impressive performance from the offense that this team hasn't had in a while, to be able to pull out a win, to score and able to win instead of avoid disaster and able to not lose. So, Alex, I want to start with you. Like, that idea of offensive prowess being able to lead to results, is that sustainable for this team?
Uh, Honestly, I don't know. This team has been really wishy-washy. It's been sort of an Inter Miami thing since the beginning. They've not won a lot of games in their history, so the result against the Revolution was welcome, but they're gonna have to find a way. Basically, this upcoming game against Seattle, it'll be a tough one, but they'll be flying high after that win. The way they did it, they fought back, which we haven't seen this season. It's a lot of times we talked about that they'll concede a goal and then they'll drop their shoulders and they'll concede two or three goals. But this game they went down, they came back, the Revs equalized, and they fought back again. So definitely the way that they came back is going to be playing in their head a little bit. And as far as if this is sustainable, I think I don't know if Neville goes with the same starting 11, let them get some cohesive, let them get just gel a little bit more. Especially with we'll touch on this later, the omission of Gonzalo Higuain due to injury. I definitely think that defensively, if they keep it together, maybe they can get a point. I don't know about a win, but Seattle's coming off of the Champions League game against NYCFC. I think I have to double check, but yeah, they're going to be a bit tired and they're going to be on short rest. So there's definitely points taking for the taking here. Yeah, they're gonna have to find a way. I don't know because this team has been so Jekyll and Hyde ish, but they're gonna have to find a way basically.
Austin, we've talked about CONCACAF Champions League and how it can affect teams. We were talking about it earlier today in the press conference about the short week, the idea that Seattle, who will play in the CONCACAF Champions League final coming up, and I think the fifth MLS team to appear in the final of that tournament. A lot of pressure on them. Do they rest players? We'll get to that in just a sec. I want to talk to you about that. But the first thing that I want to talk to you about is the idea of a short week. MLS has a very very difficult schedule as it already is. Even more difficult this year with the World Cup being in the winter. To get a result like that, but now be able to build upon it with a team that's going to face a short week. How much could that spawn something that you want to have some momentum? Or is that just like us as journalists posturing and hoping for results?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think on the flip side too, you've got to think of Inter Miami and what they have coming up in terms of the Miami FC match on Tuesday, and you look at that travel schedule. Them going to Seattle, I believe they left today after training, as Thursday that is. They're gonna play on Saturday night, 10 o'clock our time. Have to fly back on Sunday, and in probably less than 48 hours after they travel across the country, play in their first ever derby match in a cup game that they've never played in before. So as for Seattle, yeah, the CONCACAF Champions League is important. You can talk about the possible rotation of players. They're playing against different, conference opponents, so it's not necessarily as important, although it is very important. But for Miami and what I've heard from Phil Neville specifically, I think he's taking both competitions very seriously. I think that he's not going to be in. He's not. First of all, Phil Neville's not in a position to, and Inter Miami are not in a position to rest and rotate. It's go go go. When you have one win in 6 games, it has to be go go go. And now that you have this win, especially as you guys were mentioning, it was coming off of, going down 1-0. You have to build off of the momentum. And I think that as much as we can worry about what Seattle is going to have going on or what they have going on, Miami right now has way too much going on and way too much to build on to worry about the opponents. And for us as journalists, for everybody as fans, there's still a lot of work to do, and Phil Neville expresses that time and time and time again. So this game on Saturday is extremely important against a very strong and formidable opponent, and then the game on Tuesday, you could argue, is even more important, right? So there's a lot to take in. It's been quite the winning week for this club, but I think that it's got to be a go 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 mentality, and don't hold anything back.
Austin, I want to ask you, which would you prioritize? You have at Seattle for the very first time, or you have at Miami FC, the big shebang that we've all been talking about, that all of Miami Dade has been talking about for the better part of what feels like a decade. They finally get it. The irony being that Inter Miami's first ever game in Dade County will be played on the road at Miami FC. We can all understand that. We can all do whatever with it. I think that Inter Miami has created a experience that is broad along the corridor from Key West up to Port St. Lucie and beyond. I think that they've created even an international brand. So I don't think that that's necessarily an issue, as some will talk about. But this is the first time that this will be on the stage that we've talked about. Do you prioritize that and just say, hey, we don't need to really care about it? Because the US Open Cup has been a priority for the club. They have wanted to use that as a vessel to be able to advance themselves in facilities, in international understanding, in success, in winning trophies, in things like that. They've wanted that opportunity. So do they just say, hey, even though we're going up against at Seattle with the opportunity to have this, big stage and have this win, do we prioritize this competition and say, no, 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 we're going to be one of the last 32. We're going for this. Last 32 leads to last 16, leads to last 8, leads to last 4, leads to last 2, etc. Like, do you think that they want that, or do you even have to pick one or the other?
I think that I know what I would rather them want, because I think we all have, since probably, let's say, October or November of 2019, when they made those first signings, we looked at the US Open Cup as, a way to not only win a trophy, but to get, like you said, it's a vessel for international exposure. It's a way to get into the CONCACAF Champions League. And right now, when you look at the table and you see what they've done in 6 games and the type of team that this is, who, have struggled in the first five, got their first win against a weakened New England side in the league. MLS Supporter Shield champions is probably out the window. Seventh place in the East, not necessarily out the window, but it's going to be a fight to get there. I think that the U.S. Open Cup gives them a fresh slate, and I think that should be at the top of the board because it is a way for you to not only win over the fans if you beat Miami FC, but to gain a trophy other than the Breezeway Airlines Carolina Challenge Cup that you won in preseason. To win a trophy there and put yourself in the CONCACAF Champions League, that's got to be, at this point, the most realistic, pragmatic goal for this club right now. And I understand the league's important, and I'm not saying that they're going to take Seattle lightly. I don't say that at all, because I think that barring any injuries in these two games that we see on Saturday and on Tuesday, probably going to be almost the same exact lineup, because I don't think that Phil Neville's going to want to shy away from what's going right for him right now. I think that he is dead set on playing his best players in these two matches despite the rest or despite the travel and all that kind of stuff, because he needs to get results. But for me personally, and I'm not speaking for the club, I'm prioritizing the US Open Cup because it does so much for you, does so much for the fans, does so much for the club, that right now, the way you've been playing and have started in the league, that you can't get it from there. Realistically, it's not going to come from there. So to get it, to have a fresh slate in a competition like this is extremely important.
Alex, let's talk about the lineup. I really enjoyed that kind of hybrid 4-3-3. It was fluid. It was understanding of what it was, and I think that Campana enjoyed it more than Higuain has in the past in that same role. So you chuckle, so let's start there. Higuain is not going to travel with the team. The club confirmed uh, to Seattle. Uh, dealing with a knee injury that he has been dealing with for a while. He was in training as of this on Thursday. I watched him train today, but dealing with that. Campana looked a little bit. I'm gonna opine a little here and say he did look a little more comfortable in that role. And where do you assess everybody moving forward in this relationship of how the front six is going to work in this offense because they've reestablished that back four?
I want to not really touch on the offense, but the midfield. I tweeted out like a photo on my tactics account about how Robert Taylor and John Mata would push up into those half spaces, and that's kind of how you recycle possession. If you lose it, you always have two midfielders there, and not just sort of like this lopsided winger, and then maybe a center forward there and a fullback. So it makes sense in my
Tell,
head, but
tell us
I
your
think the
tactics account so that people can see it.
Oh, it's at Tactics by Alex on Twitter. I don't. There's not too many followers there because I don't tweet a lot of content there, but it's just for reference when I'm writing something and whatnot. Tactics by Alex on Twitter. But yeah. Speaking of the midfield, I want to just give kudos to Gregory. Oh, and Phil Neville in a way. He sort of simplified Gregory's role in these last couple of games. I know Ian and we talked about this. I believe in the last pod about how I would drop Gregory because he just wasn't playing well. And bringing in Mo Adams who could just sit and screen. But I think Neville has, with this switch to 4-3-3, he's simplified Gregory's role a bit. So all he does is literally just need to screen and move the ball on instead of maybe you know telling him to push up a little, but still trying to get back. No, and there's none of that. He just sits, screen the back line, and we'll get to Mabika and Low later. He just sits, screens the back line, pushes the ball out wide to either a winger or John Mata or Robert Taylor, who are more creative midfielders who can have a shot, can create something. I think it's just simplified his role a bit, and he's played better these last couple of games. He's looked a lot better, and I got to give kudos to Phil Neville for just switching up the formation and putting his players in the proper positions to do well. The 4-3-3, it's going back to your point. It is super fluid because Leo Campana, he's not quick, but he's quick enough to get into those spaces to be able to score, and we saw it with all three of those goals. I think the second one in particular, his movement there just to peel off the side of the defender and finish with his left foot, and Robbie got the assist on that. It just showed how fluid it was. Like Campana was a left winger at that point, and I think Lassiter was going through the middle. So it just showed how fluid and open this front three was. And no, it wasn't tiki taka Barca football, but it's yeah, it just suits the group of players that they have at the moment. And I know these first couple of games Miami have played, I feel like Neville is trying to shoehorn in this formation to because he likes the idea of it. I know. I'm going back to FIFA a bit, but like there are certain formations that you want to play, but sometimes the team that you start your career mode on, they don't. The players
No, I
aren't
know,
set
I
for
know
that,
what
so
you're
you just
saying.
gotta
He
switch it
thought
around.
he saw something in this
Yeah.
team, and he's trying to figure that out.
Yeah, and I gotta commend him for that, for at least recognizing that and putting the players in the proper position. Yeah, we'll touch on some other things that maybe he could have done better, but just seeing Campana, Lassiter, and Robinson play this fluid sort of style of counterattacking football. I know the Revs are in a bad spot at the moment, but it was super fun to watch, and it was we knew what was going on tactically compared to previous games, so it was easy to see where they were going. And if you want more in depth, just more in depth breaking down of that, I did a giant Twitter thread on basically what we're discussing now. Gonzalo was there. There were no true creative midfielders. It was just pure speed and hard tackling that got the job done, which is, basically MLS in a nutshell. You don't need the best players, but as long as you're quicker to the ball than your opponent, it's not really an issue. So
Let me jump in here
yeah.
first. I want to say this about Campana before I'm not allowed to talk about him
Mhm.
anymore because of my Ecuadorian bias. I'm not going to let it get in the way. I just want to say one thing. I think that um, he creates a positional advantage for himself as a striker that you want a striker like him to have. Like he gets into the areas that Gonzalo Higuain was not getting into. I think that the pass that came from Robbie to him on the box, honestly, Gonzalo Higuain's probably standing outside the 18, maybe near the half circle. You know what I mean? And for Campana to be in those areas at all times, providing an option for the other attackers and wingers to coming up and down the wings instead of sending balls into an empty box, it proved to be extremely worth it for Campana to be the number 9 in this match. But I won't revel any more in that. I
Mhm.
have a question for Alex because
Yeah.
tactically, the way that the 4-3-3 was set up, it looks like now it's taken its course to the second team as well. In the game against Orlando, we saw a Caputo as holding midfielder with Azcona and Duke on the outsides. Now, what that kind of meant was that in previous seasons, and this is going for Gregory, by the way, in previous seasons, or I guess in last year, with Rodolfo Pizarro there, whether it was that he was a left winger or he was playing as a 10, Phil Neville relied on a single creative midfield player as someone to be a true number 10 in front of him. And he trusted Gregory with a true number 10 to be the holding guy. However, without that presence there, with the emphasis on the wing play, that is, to be the creators, does Gregory need two midfielders next to him? Because in this moment in time, we've seen what it's like with him only next to Jean Mota or only next to Mo Adams, and that's when we've seen that he's had his worst performances. And you guys were asking for him, not necessarily asking for him to be dropped, but
Yeah. But
it was a conversation in the last episode. Does Gregory need two midfielders next to him if they are players like Robert Taylor and John Mata who can push into the half spaces but also have the work ethic and drive to defend at the same time? Does the 4-3-3 stick? is Gregory better off from it? And does this team actually need to prioritize getting a number 10 when you have a Robert Taylor who is that hybrid guy, when you have a Jean Mota who's pushing up the pitch all the time, you have an improved Robbie Robinson, it seems, and Ariel Lassiter who is extremely threatening at all times. You've got, Noah Allen who plays better going up the pitch. You have DeAndre Yedlin who's faster than anybody I've ever seen with my own two eyes going up the pitch. Does that true number 10 need to be there? And does Gregory need to have two midfielders next to him in order to be, or order for Inter Miami to be successful?
I'll start with the Gregory question. Yeah, I think he probably, like I said, he probably plays better when his role is a bit simplified. Really, he's really good. I think if you go to his advanced stats, he's in the 99th percentile in tackles and clearances, which is insane. And you want to put your players in the best position to do what they're good at. And having him just as a lone number 6, just cleaning up balls and spraying them to a quicker, faster teammates in the midfield or on the wing, that just helps him simplify his role. Helps him as a leader, because when he's out here defending for his team, he can go, maybe not attack as much. Although he was involved in that second goal with Robbie and Campana, if you go back and watch it, it just simplifies his role to a point where he can go back, lead, defend, just let's say tackle ball, pass it forward, keep the defensive shape. If the opposition team breaks on the counter, he's there alongside Mabika and Lowe, and that just simplifies his role to a point where he doesn't have to go up and try to be the creative midfielder. If this was a double pivot, a 4-2-3-1, it's very, you need a certain amount, you need certain players to be able to play that. A number 10 being one of those, which Miami doesn't have at the moment. And playing a double pivot, you have to be super disciplined to be able to do that. And Gregory, he is a guy who does like to he does like to go up, similar to John Mata, but he maybe won't have a shot on goal. He does like to go up and maybe have an assist or two. But yeah, that 4-3-3, it just simplifies his role a bit. He can just sit there, defend well, tackle well. As far as the number 10 goes, I don't know. I think that is a dilemma, isn't it? This formation, it doesn't necessarily call a call for a 10, but I'll push back on that and saying I think the number 10 in world football, it's becoming increasingly obsolete. The Ozils, the James Rodriguez's, they're not really, flourishing. The Juan Matas, they're not flourishing at like they used to maybe 10 years ago, because, modern football has changed where 11 men need to defend. All of them need to get a tackle in at one point, and you're seeing these hybrid number 8s like a Kevin De Bruyne, a Bernardo Silva, who were maybe attacking midfielders in their youth, stages, but as they gotten older, they've transitioned to more of a box to box, can be creative, but they absolutely need to go back and defend sort of midfielders. So I think number 10s as a whole, maybe in MLS, they can thrive because the league is just different. But in modern football, number 10s as a whole, they're increasingly obsolete, in my opinion. I can write a piece on this, but does Inter Miami need one? I think you wait until the summer. They do have an open DP spot. If they're really struggling with chances and, they try to get Gonzalo back into the team, try that number 10 experiment again, and it's just not working.
But Alex,
Maybe.
they can't mess it up. If you go back to a Rodolfo Pizarro situation and you're not hitting like a Columbus is with Zelarayan or a Minnesota is with Emmanuel Reynoso, it's going to end up being the same exact situation that they just had. MLS number 10s can be extremely important, and I see that, but I also look at a team like LAFC who play this standard 4-3-3 without that true creative, number 10 guy, whatever it is, and they're still extremely successful. So if you're going to do it right, and if you are unsure, I think that you need to find another way to do it.
Can I jump in on how you would do this? Because they did
go
it.
ahead.
They did it against New England, right? Is you had an option there. You could throw on Mo Adams, or you could throw on Bryce Duke. What did they choose? They chose Bryce Duke, who could change everything of how that would pivot up the field and change everything. And he performed it, and that's what they got him for. He might not be able to do 90 minutes right now healthy and running as everybody would like him to, but that's exactly why you get a Bryce Duke. That's like literally everything that happened. He got entered, I think, in like the
10-8 hybrids
82nd
too.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's his exact role for Inter Miami CF2 was to play as that midfielder. I mean, I think Darren Powell had said that they had wanted to push Ascona a little bit more as to a number 10, but when you look at the game in the first half before Ascona came off injured, it was Caputo here like Gregory was here, and then you had Ascona and Duke,
All right.
exactly what Mota and Taylor were doing, pushing to the half spaces above him on either side. Once Ascona came off, though, I will say Duke went a little bit more centrally, and we saw him operate as a number 10
Exactly,
against Orlando, and that's exactly what he can do.
exactly, and they took Taylor off to replace Duke.
Exactly.
So
And
Gregory
when
could play along. So that's the answer to the puzzle, if you will, right? Like it might not be sustainable for 90 minutes, but you have created a construct that could possibly work because 6 minutes later the game winner was scored, right? So like you
and
already
that
have
exact game winner came from Bryce Duke pressing into the half space and making that 1-2 with Noah Allen and going in between the left back and the left center back, or the right center, or the right back and the right center back,
Yeah.
and getting the assist. He didn't get the assist, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I
and
want
I think
guys
it's interesting because one last point about I keep talking about Barca, but just this idea of having the youth teams. You watch the academy teams; they play a 4-3-3, and Miami too, they're playing 4-3-3. First team, they're playing a 4-3-3. I think I like this romanticized idea of all of Inter Miami's teams playing this collective 4-3-3. Maybe some different tactical tweaks, but at the core of it, the principles are the same: hard tackling, running, fighting for your teammate. I think the idea of that is really appealing. So, and I think Austin and I we were talking about this in the press box while Inter Miami 2 were playing, about how it's just similar. Like you mentioned, Caputo was a holding midfielder, two number eights. It played very similarly, but there were some tactical differences between Neville and Powell. But yeah, I think that idea it's extraordinarily appealing. And it's just like football romanticism. I don't know, but yeah, it'd be cool if they continue that. But
guys, before we move on from the win over New England, I wanted to talk about the lovely pairing of Damian Lowe and Aime Mabika. Uh, the two towers is I guess the nickname that Twitter is calling them. Obviously, both big center backs. What do we think of that pairing combined with the speed that Miami can have on the outside? Uh, that seems like a formula for success, but it seems kind of like very normalized that you would have two big center backs and then you'd have two outside wingers that'll go wide. Do we like that pairing? Does it need to be that, or could it be others that if we throw in an Ian Frey, if we throw in things like it could eventually could that look differently within the same construct?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a little concerned right now about that, and the reason is, well, I look at the first goal conceded on that side, and it was, I mean, right now at a time where Inter Miami are struggling with left back options, it is what it is because of injury and all of that. But Christopher McVeigh would be pushed out to that side if he's not gonna, if Phil Neville's not gonna go and start the 17-year-old, right? And you have a right-footed center back who's not the most agile playing as a wing back. And then you saw throughout the game they were sometimes defending in a 5-4-1 with Robbie Robinson dropping in, and sometimes they weren't. And on that first goal that they conceded, Mabika was a little bit too inverted. Chris McVeigh leaves a huge space. That's how they got. That's how I think DeJuan Jones got in behind and made the cross. So there's a lot to like from the Low Mabika pairing, but I want it to come with a little bit more trust in the instructions. I want it to come with, okay, we have a left back that we can trust to defend. We're going to keep this as a 4, and we're not going to trust Robbie. We're not going to have to trust Robbie to come back and be a wing back. Let's figure this out. But with McVeigh playing in not necessarily an unnatural position because he has played as a wide back before, but for him to be right-footed playing on that left side, it made matters a little bit more complicated. And at that point in the game when they conceded, They had not figured it out just yet. And then later on, you saw Robbie dropping deeper and deeper and deeper time and time again. So I thought that, to go specifically to Loa and Mabika, those are the two starters that I personally want. I don't think that McVay has really done that much wrong. However, to have these towering center backs who have great recovery speed, great instincts to put in tackles, and the leg the leg length to make these tackles, I like it a lot. But I want it to come with a little bit more trust in the instruction.
Austin, just real fast, and I don't have like a better way of putting this, but how much of what Robbie's role was in pulling back was like Lewis Morgan PTSD? Like, just like
It was a
understanding what
lot.
happened.
It was a lot, but it came with. So when I first saw the lineup, I thought that Robert Taylor was being forced into this role, but
Yeah.
then it happened to be a 4-3-3 because we didn't
Yeah.
know what 4-3. We didn't know a 4-3-3 was coming,
Yeah.
and then when I saw Robbie coming down, he had it was Lewis Morgan PTSD for sure. However, Robbie was so hungry to get up the pitch time and time again that it was like, all right, McVay, you've got to do this, buddy. I got to move up and down the sideline. Like, I got to go. And I think that the difference between the Robbie role in that game and the Lewis Morgan role in that game was literally the 4-3-3 and the 5-4 or the 5 whatever that 5-3-2 or whatever they played in last season with Lewis there. So very different. The way they were switching play and things like that allowed Robbie to have space, green space up and down the wing, time and time again. So he took that because that's the type of player he is. He's not a defender at all whatsoever. I don't think if you go watch his 3 years, or I guess 2.5 because of injury at Clemson, I don't think Robbie Robinson defended once in his whole entire collegiate career, and he hasn't done it with Inter Miami either. So it was a very different role. I think that he did play it to a T. However, it's a little bit different than the Lewis Morgan one because it was a lot less focused on the defense, while Lewis Morgan was fully focused on the defense. But I am a little bit nervous.
I think the fan outrage if Neville does like try to convert Robbie into a wing back would be enormous. So yeah, I don't think that would happen.
And I don't think he's gonna do it. Like, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I just think that because McVay was there at that point in time, and I'm not sure, why Noah didn't start.
Oh yeah.
If Kieran Gibbs coming back, Jovan Jones coming back, like there's going to be formidable left backs to play there, later on down the line. But as for the Seattle game, I'm not really sure what the left back option is, and if it's the same thing as it is, as it was in the New England game. I think we can see or expect to see the exact same thing that we just saw.
Yeah. I don't know. I just have a feeling they're gonna run with McVay again. Seattle away is a very, very tough environment to throw a 17-year-old Noah into, which he can do. He's good enough, but you don't want to hang him out to dry there. So yeah,
So
I don't know.
Jovan is back in training, right? He's been playing with Inter Miami too, so that is an option for the. It's on the table.
It's on the table.
I think it's too soon.
It's a little too soon. Like, maybe he'll get 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But
how
to
long
not have
do you
time, like,
see that going? Like when do you think that is a viable option? I agree with you. It's not viable at Seattle, but when could you? Because he is in training. He was in full training. He's playing with Inter Miami too. Like I actually thought that he performed very nicely today. So like
he did.
when do you think that might be an option? I'm not going to put you on the spot with that to predict, but like when do they need to have a resolution for what they have?
I think it's got to be soon. I don't know when it's going to be, but it could be as soon as the 60th minute when Jordan Morris and Christian Roldan are pushing against tired legs.
Oh,
like it could be as soon as
it could be mid-game. You think that if he could only like maybe run a half hour, maybe run like 15, 20 minutes, then you can pull that trigger.
I can see Jovan Jones playing 30 minutes on Saturday. I really can. And I think that I think that if he's taken and you see Christopher McVay struggling. You see that Robbie can't be in a position to defend, whether they're down in the game or whatnot. You don't trust Noah Allen at this point. Kieran Gibbs still isn't back. I'm sorry, but I'm not sure what's going to happen on the wings for Seattle. But with players like Roldan and Morris to go at the back line, you want some stability there. And I know that he's coming off of the injury, but I mean, even if it's for 15 minutes to try and secure something, whether it's a point or three, I
But
could see it happening.
do you think that this is that big of an issue, that this is like the number one priority, that you are rushing someone back into the fold like this? Like, whoa, we don't have
No,
anybody to
I
cover
think
this space.
I think Phil Neville trusts Noah Allen enough. I do. I think they trust him enough to do a defensive job. But at the same time, I know that he sees his potential in the attacking output. So it's gonna be a very Jovan Jones is a better defender than Noah Allen at this point in time. While there's like a however many 13 or 12-year age difference, whatever it is, but I'm worried about the quality of Seattle and what they can do on the wings, and also what Nico Lodero can do to provide, options to the wings. So there's a little bit of nerve for me in that. So that's why I think it's possible that Jovan Jones can try and see out the match, on the back end. But I it's really tough to predict.
Alex, do you think
I'm,
that do you think that like the ability to run McVay as possibly like a third center back to get DeAndre higher up the pitch gives you more flexibility, or would you not make that trade-off?
uh, yeah, personally, I think knee injuries are so tricky, especially for guys who rely on their speed, like Joven does. I generally would not push him on before he's ready. It's yeah, knee injuries are just so tricky, and I don't want to see him relapse or anything. So honestly, I wouldn't even think about starting him until maybe mid May, which is probably along like a month from now. Maybe I agree with Austin. Maybe 15 minutes if he can do it. I mean, he did it with Inter Miami too, so it's definitely doable. But for the full time 90, like that's like mid May, late May for him, in my opinion. I'm not a doctor, nor do I have his medical sheets, but that's how I feel. But as far as the formation goes, yeah, they can do that. It'll technically be a back three, but they line up as a four back. But you see Manchester City do this all the time. Kyle Walker will kind of tuck in, and he's playing as a full back, but he's as a
Well,
third center
DeAndre
back.
probably basically does the same thing that
Yeah,
Kyle.
but yeah, but like you flip that, so McVay is as a fullback, but he's that third center back. He can go up, but it's more of like a discipline thing. Just stay there, make sure you're not getting exposed in behind. And then the 4-3-3 can work as normal. Maybe Robbie or yeah, Robbie plays on the left wing. Robbie can maybe have some defensive duty. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be tricky. Genuinely, I don't know. I don't know. I think if like I know this is gonna sound like crazy, but like, is this like Harvey Neville emergency loan time? He has played as a left back for Inter Miami too. Maybe you
That's
call him up.
not a bad shout. I hadn't
I,
thought of that. That is not a
I have
bad
not thought about that either.
Yeah, I was just playing my mind. I was like,
He's
oh,
played well.
yeah, he has. If
That's
like is
yeah.
like I don't know the MLS Next Pro rules, but is it dependent on the international roster spot if he can get called up or not? I don't know, but I was like, maybe you could call up Harvey Neville for a short term loan, have him start, as a left back.
Jeez.
He's done that before, so
Alex,
he's
that
done
was
well. So
galaxy brain. None of us thought
oh
of
god,
that. That was great. I
I
love
don't know,
it.
it was so glaringly. I don't know, like I thought, yeah. But yeah, I think that would be interesting to see Neville do. Harvey's he's a good player. He played well. He's been playing well for Inter Miami too. So I think that's definitely a good show. I don't know if they'll do it now. I think they're already on the plane already. So whatever. But like,
Well,
but yeah, I think that
let's
would have been
talk
an
about
interesting
Inter
show.
Miami too before
Yeah.
we end the show, because
Mm,
a really impressive win over Orlando City 2, as well, or Orlando City B, I think is what they call it.
yeah.
A 2-0 win, and just this team, it was exciting last year. It seems more organized this year. So it seems like it has the same excitement, but more organization. Last year was a little more helter skelter. This year is a little more of we have that same passion, that same front foot, but we have the organization to understand it. Alex, you and I have talked, you know, back when it was Fort Lauderdale CF, now when it's Inter Miami too. We've talked again and again about them. I was talking to Darren Powell earlier today, and he was saying about how this team is a fun team to the way their style of play is just an entertaining style of play. I tend to agree with him on that, and just getting the chance to see them have a cohesive and complete like whole game against an Orlando City B team. I hate to sound like I'm giving an infomercial for them, but it was, I mean, like that, if you wanted an infomercial for a minor league team, that was it right there. That was all of
Yeah, and I think Austin and I we had the opportunity to speak with Powell and CJ Dos Santos after that game, and they were both pretty fired up. Dos Santos specifically, he was talking about how they wanted him to be a leader, and he was just there just to to make an impact, and he certainly did. Ian, you were talking about them, having more complete games compared to last season. Dos Santos and that defense was a big part of that. Just keeping the clean sheet and not winning, not winning games like 4-3 like they did last season, which it was just crazy to watch. But yeah, they got that defense under control, and I believe the game before the Orlando game, they let up 3 goals against the Union, and so one of the first questions Austin asked was, how good did it feel just to get that clean sheet, and Powell was over the moon, and it just showed that he just talked about players progressing and them progressing as a unit and the tactics progressing, and it was just really pleasing to see, and it was pleasing to talk to him about that post game. So you're absolutely right that this team is super entertaining. They're young, but they're hungry, and they're good, and they're progressing well. Romeo Beckham for one, he there's a lot of Twitter talk about him, and but genuinely he's progressing well. He's a good player, and if he continues on this trajectory, he can definitely make an impact. Maybe in MLS someday. Abel Caputo is one of them. Braxton Najib is another one of them. Cedar Dos Santos I touched on. Just a lot of talented guys in this group, and a couple of them playing in the Generation Adidas Cup, which we'll touch on before the show ends. Just this Inter Miami 2 squad. It's important because MLS is let's take FC Dallas or Philadelphia for example. They have homegrown players in their starting 11. That's it's just important to look at Inter Miami's academy and their B team, because one of these days these players will be starting for the first team. Look at Noah Allen, Ascona. They'll be starting one day, and that's what this club wants to be more than anything. I know, yes, the DPs are there, but you want those homegrown players on there, because not only as far as the cap goes, they're just cap friendly. They're local pride, and it's just fun to see them progress through their career and to get better and to see them play. So I'm going off a tangent about Inter Miami too, but they're just a really fun team to watch, and tickets are only $5, and it's a really good atmosphere. So definitely go and check it out
this
if you
this
have
is
the
the
time.
best advertisement that they want. I'll give the last one in a congratulations to Brooklyn Beckham for his wedding
Yes.
over the weekend, Romeo's brother. So we'll go with that. Austin, your thoughts on the game, because I have appreciated your. I mean, I've loved your soccer knowledge for a while, but seeing you fall into Inter Miami 2 or Fort Lauderdale CF as it was previously. Seeing you fall into that love and understanding that, just uh, to experience it in person, what did you think?
I thought a lot. I thought a lot. I thought the whole 90 minutes. I mean, it was I gotten to watch some games on ESPN Plus last year with Fort Lauderdale, but you guys were the ones that really took the reins on that. And now for me to be able to do this, it's pretty exciting, and it's something you just expect from a Darren Powell side. Like at this point in time, like that's just Darren Powell. That's who he is. He's going to play this exciting soccer. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, on Tuesday, Phil Neville said that he wants to take a little bit away from that. Like he wants his first team to kind of act like the second team is. And that's really crazy to say because usually it's vice versa. But that's the world we're in right now with Inter Miami. No, but it's been fun. And I said to you guys, I wanted to touch on some specific players because we've talked about the style. We've talked about the style and how he wants to play the 4-3-3, all that kind of stuff. But individual player performances are extremely important. And now that I'm really getting to know these guys, I look at the partnership between Mendes and Harden and I say, yep, that's solid. I look at now, like Alex was saying, Romeo Beckham, who is a wonderful crosser of the ball. And no, I'm not talking about his dad. He could put in a free kick. He can put in a corner kick. That was how they scored the second goal. I see similarities between Leonardo Campana and Schneider Borgelin. I see there's just so many different things that I saw that I like from this team. But I mean, even going down to, let's say, Harvey Neville, who I tweeted at one point in the game, for me was not only the most defensively solid player, but the way he would get about in transition, playing balls up to Romeo or to even Schneider Borgelin. There were times where I just saw that he was hungry to move the ball forward, and he did it with such precision that I know they're chomping at the bit to get this green card thing done because he's probably ready for MLS minutes at this point in time. Romeo Beckham, as much as he's improved a little bit, I think still needs more time. But I think there's a lot to like from this side. It was like how we reveled at the fact of how good Mabika was last year, right? And now we're seeing it with even more players this year. It's kind of it's just crazy. I don't know if I for lack of better words, it's crazy.
I want to keep going with the academy idea because I mean, we spoke with Braxton Najib like earlier today, like the idea of how well this academy has been organized for all of the stuff that we've talked about with the first team, sanctions and Paul McDonough and all of that, like everything that we've gone through over the past couple of years. You've understood that the academy has been building quality local talent that has been going through it. You saw it in their scouting with Mabika. You saw it locally with Noah Allen. You saw it internationally with Harvey Neville. The guy didn't choose his father. So let's just end all of that. Like end all of it with Romeo, end all of it with Harvey. Like they are quality football players. They are quality soccer players, and it's about time that we stop the nonsense. I'm just gonna say it once and for all. That won't end it, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah,
I think that the man deserves a first team contract. Harvey, if we're talking about him, he needs to. They need to solve the green card issue, and once
not only does Harvey need a first team contract, but Inter Miami needs Harvey to have a first team contract because I'm going to ask both of you this question right now: who's the backup right back?
Exactly. There's
if DeAndre Edlin goes down,
McVay.
What happens?
Right? McVay.
It's McVay.
Yeah.
And do we want that?
Right. Yeah, that's like second year Miami Figal.
It's Figal all over again.
Gosh.
Exactly. So, I like the idea of Harvey Neville as a player. Like from what I've seen, I enjoy it. There are
he's been good.
What I'm saying is this Inter Miami 2 team, should we, along this process, because it's a little bit of a different season, now that we're quote unquote back to normal, or as back to normal as that would be, are we thinking that this is a team, like, I'll be honest with you, from what I've seen from them, I think this team can make a run. They're top of the table right now. I don't see anything that tells me that this team shouldn't be expected to have quality result after quality result. Like, at what point do we start having expectation? Is my question to you.
Now,
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
I I
Now,
I think it's now. And I think obviously the expectation and pressure isn't going to be as high it is for the first team ever, because that's just
yeah,
not how it works. And also, it's not in a. I guess the expectation and pressure even comes off a little bit more when you leave USL and you go into MLS Next Pro. So it's gonna be a little bit different. Um, However, I think that it still needs to be there. I think that they know it should be there. They want it to be there, as in the coaching staff and that the front office personnel, because it gives these young players the ability to compete at a high level. They've talked highly about, the level of quality in the league so far, despite not being against independent organizations, which is obviously the USL is something to me that beforehand was just something so crazy, and it still is a little bit crazy now, but we don't have to talk about that. But I think the expectations and the pressure should come now, and this team should want to compete, because that's what they're going to do in a couple years' time when they're on the first team or in Europe or at another MLS team.
hoping they can stay with Inter Miami, especially
You
the
never know.
yeah.
Sometimes they're a little too good. it,
Alex,
it
That's
just
true.
happens that way.
let's close on this.
Mhm.
Obviously, a historic run for the U17 academy players, who are now, as of this recording, in the quarterfinals of the Generation Adidas Cup, which Darren Powell said today, I mean, rightfully so, is the premier competition in academy soccer, not just in the United States, but probably around the world. It's probably the biggest competition for academy soccer around the world. Inter Miami, their U17 academy, the U15s, credit to them, also made it out of the group stage. They eventually lost in the round of 16, but the U17s all the way to the quarterfinals. They'll take on the Columbus Crew. They have a path here that looks to open possibilities. I don't want to do the broadcaster's jinx, but they have a very favorable draw. And, the other side of the bracket has Manchester United. The other side of the bracket what has Tigres in it. A lot of the teams that you would go, oh, wait a minute, okay, are we going to be able to compete with this? This side of the bracket, especially speaking with people within the organization, Inter Miami, they're the good team in all of this. They swept their group. They beat Roma. I barely conceded a goal, maybe one or two, I forget. I don't even know if they
I
have
don't
conceded
I
a
don't
goal,
think they
actually.
conceded.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
don't think they conceded. I think it was 2-0 wins across the board in group stage,
Yeah,
if I'm
and
not
then
mistaken.
they beat
I'll double check
Roma
that.
1-0. So they've been very comfortable along this path. Brian Destin looks like a future star. I remember watching him when he was 12, 13 years old, and I was trying to coach against him. And I make the comp that he looks the closest thing to Conrad de la Fuente as anything I've ever seen. And I mean that with all the accolades in the world. I think that Brian Destin is one of the best strikers, best pure number nines that the U.S. has seen in a decade and a half. He is absolutely incredible. And Alex, I ask you, like, can they do this? I think that they can. The skeptic in me is the reason why I'm asking the question, because I feel like they are probably should be the favorites. And I feel like kind of sick to my stomach asking that question right now, because I can't understand how that's possible, but it speaks to what Javi Morales has done. It speaks to what the organization has done with the academy. And it's really impressive. I have to give them all the credit in the world, because they went out. They went to Weston FC. They went to Boca United. They went to Pembroke Pines. They went to all of these Coral Springs. They went to all of these places and they created a diverse community representative of South Florida that is now excelling on a not only a national level but a world level. And like I tip my cap to them.
Yeah, and I think it's just I don't know. I mean, I think it's a South Florida thing. You know, I played youth soccer down here growing up, and it's just an uber competitive, area. Everyone wants to win. You know, even when they're playing pickup soccer, people just want to win and score goals and just go crazy. Respectfully, not crazy crazy, but like they just want to win, and you see it with the youth teams. You know, the U15s with Inter Miami and the U17s. They just go out there and they play their hardest and they play their best, and and they're not too bad either, of course. But yeah, it's just watching them now. They're extremely good. There are several guys who played for Inter Miami too on this U17 squad. You know, Tyler Hall is one of them. Benjamin Kremeshki is another one of them. Miles Perkovich, who I
Boatwright
believe was
did
born in
Boatwright
like 2000.
got some minutes, right? I think.
I think so. Yeah, I have to double check, but yeah, a lot of young guys who were on Inter Miami two or on Inter Miami two got some Inter Miami 2 minutes, and now they're with the U17s. It just shows that the academy is progressing super well, and I think honestly, not to shade Inter Miami or anything, but that's probably the one thing that they've got very correct during their entire existence is just
It's
the
fair.
scouting and the
It's
academy,
completely fair.
and yeah, it's just it's been top line in a couple years time. Genuinely, Miami can start rivaling, Philadelphia Union, FC Dallas academies as far as talent goes. I know that those are big words, but South Florida is such a soccer hotbed. Like, I played soccer down here. Even back then, it was just crazy good. So it's only a matter of time before we get more Noah Allens, Asconas, but maybe and also, this is like a pipe dream, but maybe an all Inter Miami Academy starting 11. I know that's not possible with the DP thing and whatnot, but feasibly they could do it. The guys are good enough and they regress well, but yeah, the
Alex,
talent
you
is
are
there,
the
and
best keeper in Dade County. You are.
yeah. Yeah, it's that was yeah, it's was crazy back then. But yeah, it's just really rewarding to see that as a journalist, especially covering Fort Lauderdale CF for their first 2 seasons, then Inter Miami 2. Plenty of guys have come through and gone, but the core principles have been the same. You talk to Darren Powell, and they just want them to be Inter Miami 2. They want them to be like like a what's the word, like a platform to the first team, and they're doing really well with that. So, and you see it with the U17s and U15 guys, and they're doing super well, and it's really pleasing to see just it evolve from what it has happened in 2019. Just they've gotten so far, and they're not even done yet. So it's just really cool to see.
I was saying to you guys before we clicked record, like what a winning week that this organization has had. You started off with the Revolution win, a couple of group stage wins in the Generation Adidas Cup right before then, and then up until the U15 loss to Pumas in the round of 16, this team just kept winning. It was win after win after win. It was the win against New England, the win against Orlando City B, a U17 win here, a U15 win there. And then now we have this U17 team that it seems like not only, not only like I would say, I guess us insiders are getting into, but like the fans are also getting into it. It's being streamed on MLS's YouTube channel, and you can watch the games, and fans are going out and talking about these kids that are making them proud, that look like, dare I say it, tournament favorites at this point. The way they absolutely destroyed the group stage. I did look it up. They've only conceded 1 goal in their first 4 games, none in the group stage, only the one to Atlanta that came off of some. If you guys saw that goal, an
It was
absolute
like
blatant push
the
off.
wind basically made
Yeah,
it.
well, it was the throw in, right? And the wind carried the ball, but one of Miami's defenders got completely pushed in the back and like hindered his ability to head the ball. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm getting too hyped over a U17
Conspiracy,
match.
conspiracy.
There's it was just it doesn't matter. But these guys are making um fans proud, the community proud, and that's exactly what you want from an academy and an organization that's looking to appeal to the locals. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
Listen, we had the Canes basketball run. The Heat are the number one seed. The Panthers will likely be the number one seed. It's okay to
Hurricanes
be
baseball
Hurricanes baseball might be the number one seed or number one team in the
in the
nation by the
country.
time you hear
Yeah.
this.
Miami has a Grand Prix coming up in
Miami has the
Portugal.
Grand Prix, so my Daniel Ricciardo fandom gets to be enjoyed again. It's okay to say, oh, this U17 team. What is Carolina? What was it? Austin Carolina Challenge.
The
Oh,
Breezeway Airlines Carolina Challenge Cup. Don't forget the name.
Thank you. Okay, so you have that win. It's coming up roses right now for a lot of
mm.
Miami sports teams. Especially for so it's okay, to understand that the U17s in the academy, and that's hard work. I really don't want to say, oh, it's a bunch of high school kids. Who cares? That's really hard work to not only develop the talent, not only to do it that age, but that age is the pivotal moment of when a player is really going to make it or not. So for them to be succeeding on their scouting, for them to not only be doing that, but also doing it in the local South Florida, right? Brian Destin's from Palm Beach County, right? Felipe Valencia is from Broward. Like these guys are from all over this place. Or I don't know. I think Felipe Valencia is actually from Dade. But regardless, like these guys are from the South Florida area, and to be able to scout these guys and to churn them out in such a successful way that you are succeeding on the grandest stage that they possibly could compete at is a great sign for the future of Inter Miami, the future of the organization, and what they are attempting to build in terms of a local club to build out into the international community so that one day when Brian Destin hopefully goes on to play for a club like Conrad De La Fuente played in Barcelona, right? For him to be able to do that, or a Christian Pulisic to be able to one day be that, to be able to create these are great opportunities, and I think that the club, should be lauded for the effort and the time and the ability, especially from Javi Morales and his staff, what they've done. It is not an easy job to get that out of young, youthful, energetic players.
And let me just say to everybody listening, we're not being paid to say any of this stuff. Just
No,
so you
I'm
know,
just saying
this
how
is
I'm
this
saying
is
how I feel.
just like
I hate that I
no.
feel like
This
Yeah,
I'm
is
making an
Daniel.
infomercial. This is how I
no.
feel about it.
Yeah,
This is how
yeah.
we feel about it, and I know that a lot of the focus for this club right now is, of course, on the first team because that's where it all stems from. But the real roots of the organization are what's being built right now through these kids coming through the academy, and all the focus will be on the top. All the focus will maybe even be on the second team, but it all. I mean, the true pride and passion is going to come from these U17s, these U15s competing in these tournaments to move up to the first team. And then the days where we get to watch Noah Allen play on the pitch and Edison Escona play on the pitch for the first team, it's quite the spectacle, I think, for South Florida sports.
There is a reason that we spent the first 40 minutes talking about the first team. We're focused there. I'm just
Yeah,
saying that
yeah.
like we spend the back end, that this last 20-30 minutes on on Inter Miami 2, right? And on the academy, because the three of us, the four of us, including Andres, because he does a great job producing all of our content, we spend this time focusing on these people so that we are able to describe to you when someone gets called up, when someone is introduced into it, so that we know before they are introduced into the first team squad how they will be able to impact the squad. So
and they deserve the coverage. They
They
deserve the
do.
recognition.
Yeah,
yeah,
they do, and
I mean, they've
it's
earned it.
you know,
They're
not many.
winning.
Yeah, not many news outlets, not to shade them anything, but I genuinely think this is super important. You know, like I'm talking about Barcelona again. It's just it's important. It's important because it's a whole club top to bottom. Not many news outlets. Of course they're not going to cover the B teams, but we're lucky enough to be able to get all aspects of the club to the listeners and to the readers. So it's super important because eventually these guys will be the future of Inter Miami, and we want to be able to say, hey, we saw him play for the academy, we saw him play for Inter Miami too. So to be able to talk about that is super important.
Friday, 5 p.m. It's on YouTube and on Twitch. If you want to engage there, they'll read your comments live during the broadcast. That was surprising for me. Discussing, I haven't heard a lot of that so far. She is Alex Winley. He is Austin Robillard. I am Ian Hess. For our producer Andres, this is the Heron Outlet. Please like, share, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, and we look forward to the game against Seattle coming up this weekend, and this run that the U17 team is having, and we will be with you this time next week.